Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about SUI because obviously it's been one of the really big winners of the cycle, and we've been seeing some data coming in as far as like the adoptions of different chains and how that's looking, all that type of stuff. So I want to kind of take a little bit deeper look into that today and get some more context of like how is SUI doing kind of on like a wider ecosystem level scale. And so let's take a look at that. But first off, I want to start with crypto bubbles just so we can see kind of how things are looking today. Obviously very green overall, pretty strong green I would say overall as well. Obviously we've got a couple reds here and there, but overall the market doing really quite well. Things looking pretty good here. We can see it, a lot of the ones that we talk about pretty commonly, Bitcoin, Jasmy, ICP, SUI here right at 1%, Solana, Cardano, Doge doing quite well as well. So I mean overall pretty much kind of everything looking pretty good today. So moving on though, I did want to take a look at the SUI chart because what we can see here, we actually saw a decent bit of a pullback. We did appear to have broken this support, but we actually did kind of move right back up, and we are sitting on this level of support again. We've moved back out of like the overbought range. So, I mean, obviously we are still like sitting in the strong range on the RSI, but not overbought. We can see we're starting to see slight spike in volume, not a whole lot. I mean, volume has come down a decent bit over the past couple weeks as we started to see a little bit of this pullback. But overall, I mean, SUI is sitting in a really good spot. If we are to zoom this out a little bit, we can see over the past couple months, SUI doing just absolutely unbelievably. I mean, things looking really good here. Another thing that I did want to take note of is we could see, kind of there was the first move, a little bit of a consolidation, and looking at the Bollinger Bands, we could see toward the end of this consolidation, things started to squeeze a little bit. And usually when the Bollinger Bands squeeze like this, we know that there's going to be some volatility coming either to the upside or the downside. Given that we are in a bull market, I would say it's probably more likely that it's going to be a move to the upside. But again, like that's not like common knowledge. It's just kind of like a guess given the cycle that we are in. Now what we can see here on the Bollinger Bands moving to the, after we've made this most recent move to the upside, we are starting to come in here and squeeze a little bit. So potentially if we see, a little bit of kind of sustained squeezing looking like this, we might be ready for another breakout. Again, possibly to the downside, but given that we are, kind of in a bull market and things are looking really strong for SUI overall, potentially a move to the upside. And I would say probably more likely than not, we would see a move to the upside over the downside. We can see price holding relatively well, $3.50. Again, even if we just look back a couple months ago, price was sitting like a very small fraction of that. So things looking really good there. We can see reclaiming this level of support, I do think is actually a really good thing, and it bodes really well for just the strength of SUI kind of overall. We can see it has come back, price has come back to kind of the midpoint that we've seen here on the Bollinger Band. So price kind of coming back from being overextended, and it's kind of recovered relatively well. Honestly, things are starting to look like we might be ready for another move to the upside. I do think we may have, a couple more days, maybe even a week or so, where we are kind of sitting in this like consolidation type phase. But assuming no like larger market pullback or like pessimism within the market, it's looking very likely to me that we're going to be looking to see another move to the upside here. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm keeping an eye out for, looking for this here. But overall, I mean, as we can see from like a purely technical perspective, the chart looking just about as good as it can. Obviously things looking really good here. So not a whole lot to comment on as far as like concerning things. I think really here it's just very positive looking overall. So one thing I will say, basically every SUI video I do talk about this just because I do think it's very important to make sure that we're all aware of and that we're all considering and remembering all that type of stuff. SUI is only about 27 to 28% diluted. So obviously only 27 to 28% of the coins are on the market right now, and a vast majority of them are still locked up. And so it's always very dangerous playing with these types of coins, because as soon as the bear market comes around, I think it's very likely that the price of this coin gets absolutely crushed. Obviously, that's not a guarantee. There are no guarantees in life. Most certainly not investment advice, just because I can't see the future. But just if you can go back and you can look at 1,000 different examples over the course of kind of crypto history where this has happened. And so I would say just be very careful. Obviously, I still am a big believer in SUI, at least in the short term. The things and the kind of the progress and all this type of stuff that they're doing, I think makes me a pretty reasonable believer in the medium to possibly long term. But that's not to say, like, I still think just going through this next bear cycle, SUI price is going to get absolutely decimated. So I am most definitely looking to kind of get in and get out on this type of trade. It's not at all something that I'm looking to like hold for the next 5 years or whatever, because I don't think it's going to be a good trade. So anyway, obviously you have to make your own decision, not financial advice, anything like that. But if you are interested in trading SUI while things are still looking really, really good, feel free to use my link in the description below to get signed up for BTCC. BTCC has been, really, really good. They've put together an offer for this month, 10% bonus on first time deposits. So if you are looking for a place to trade, really good option. You can see that they already have kind of the initial bonuses of up to $10,055 per user. So the 10% bonus on any deposits that you make are all in addition to these other bonuses that you could earn. So really, really good deal. I'd say, if you are looking for a place to trade anyway, why not get the extra 10% bonus? BTCC's been around for a really, really long time, probably longer than most of us. I mean, they've been around for 13 years. They've got 300 plus crypto futures, up to 500x leverage. Again, I don't recommend 500x leverage, but if you want to trade that, they have it. And then also no VPN or KYC necessary. So lots of really good things here with BTCC. So like I said, if you are looking for an exchange, BTCC I would say would be a good option. So anyway, like I said, link in the description below if you want to get started. It's pretty easy to just go and get signed up. Now, moving on, I wanted to take a look at a couple different things. We've got a couple pieces of data that I think are kind of worth looking through. So first, we can see the top net inflows over the period of the last month. This is a post that we saw on Twitter. We can see here Base, Solana, SUI kind of leading the way. I don't think that's much of a surprise, frankly. I don't at least see it as a surprise. I mean, Base has kind of been a pretty strong like retail winner, I would say. Solana has done fantastic, I would say primarily because of meme coins, but they also do have a decent number of projects transitioning over onto the Solana network for primarily higher throughput and lower fees. So, I mean, Solana's been definitely a strong beneficiary here. We've got SUI. Again, I mean, this is a SUI video. SUI has done really, really well. We're going to be taking some more looks at like data and stuff that will prove that. But we can also see it's obviously Base in terms of inflows massively ahead of everybody else. Solana and SUI kind of mostly decent, like in line with each other, and then from there, I mean, massive steps down to where we get to Starknet and BNB and Bitcoin, all that type of stuff. We can see on the down end tons of liquidity bleeding from Ethereum. I don't think this is much of a surprise. I mean, the kind of L2 angle is the angle that they're taking, and so generally the liquidity, or at least I think the hope of the liquidity, is it's going to be going primarily to Base, right? I know we know that's not 100% the case. We can see a decent amount bleeding to Solana and SUI and things like that, other types of L1s, but a decent bit of this is going to Base, which is kind of kept within the larger Ethereum ecosystem. I do think it would be kind of interesting to have a chart like this that maybe keeps Ethereum and a Polygon POS and Arbitrum and OP Stack and all this type of stuff, Base, whatever, like separate, but you could also condense them into like an Ethereum ecosystem, right? Because right now I think mainly what we're looking at is which is the ecosystem that's going to win. It's going to be Solana, it's going to be SUI, it's going to be Ethereum. Ethereum meaning all of its L2s, at least in my mind. And so I do think there is a lot to compare there. One thing that I can potentially see changing here is I could see Bitcoin actually kind of moving up the ladder. Obviously, we are seeing inflows into Bitcoin, but I could see a much stronger move up the ladder here just because of all the development that's going on in Bitcoin. I could very, very likely see a narrative that kind of takes over where people are really starting to push money into Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin and there's been some development, so it's kind of novel and new compared to what we've been able to do in prior cycles. I do think there's a really, really strong argument to be made that Bitcoin could really move up here. But again, that all aside, we can see, at least so far, Base, Solana, SUI, the major winners of this cycle. And at least if you've been around, this does not really seem all that surprising to me. If I had to guess, I think maybe we see SUI kind of step up a little bit, maybe not overtake Solana, but maybe the gap gets closed. I do think that SUI will continue to gain more steam, gain more eyes, gain more attention. I would say, at least this is kind of my opinion, I'm not sure that we've seen a whole lot of retail coming into SUI quite yet. I think this is more of the crypto native people, just because SUI is kind of a new thing. It wasn't around last cycle. I think this cycle, with retail, they're mainly focused on Solana and Base, just because that's kind of what's new to them. Maybe even BNB chain we could throw into there, but that's kind of what like they know. And even though Base is new per se, it's still on the Ethereum ecosystem. People from like, if they just kind of left from last cycle, they still probably have money on Ethereum, if we're being honest. Maybe Solana, possibly, but there's a lot of like, that's essentially kind of what I'm looking at from how I'm seeing these kind of inflows break down. Now, comparing chains, I want to take a look at this mainly just from just to show kind of the magnitude that we're dealing with here, because obviously SUI done incredibly well. Inflows are still looking fantastic. But if we go to the most recent like data that we have, we can see Ethereum almost 70 billion, and we can in fact see moves up in like total value locked, right? And so, you know, obviously we are showing outflows, but the value accrual of what's going on with Ethereum is still getting more valuable, obviously, because prices are going up and things like that. And so, I mean, Ethereum does have a bit of an advantage here in the sense that like their TVL could still go up even with net outflows, just because the value of assets are getting more valuable. But what we can see here is, you know, Solana has finally overtaken Tron. There was a pretty large period of time here where Tron was actually ahead of Solana. I mean, basically, so this is all of 2024. Tron has been ahead of Solana basically the entire year, which is a little bit surprising when you think about the run that Solana made and kind of all the crazy things that happened on meme coins and all that type of stuff back here in March. So the peak was back here in mid-March, and what we can even see at this point in time is Tron still over double Solana, BSC even higher than Solana at this point in time. So, you know, it is kind of crazy to me that the TVL hasn't kind of really stuck with Solana, but that is kind of finally starting to change. We can see that Solana is actually second behind Ethereum, and then we go Tron, BSC, and then SUI. As we can see, SUI a decent gap between them. And so again, I don't know that this is a super big concern, just because it is such a young chain. There hasn't been a ton of like value accrual that's been able to kind of take place and compound on the SUI network yet. So the fact that it's so much further behind kind of all these more established players is not necessarily a bad thing per se. It's just kind of to show like, yes, things are looking really, really good for SUI, but there's still such a long way to go, right? And so from like a risk to reward type of perspective, you know, could look really good for us from that perspective. So anyway, that's what I want to kind of go over today. Just a little bit of data discussing kind of like inflows, outflows, total net like ecosystem value size, stuff like that. Hopefully the information in this video was useful. If it was, please do give me a like and subscribe, because it really, really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, placing those in the comment section below would be a great way to do those. I do try to read and respond to all of them, so if you have anything you want me to see, that'd probably be a pretty good way to do it. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.